What's going on, guys? We're gonna be talking about Bitcoin today and whether or not it is a good investment. And I can't even believe that at the time of making the video right now, Bitcoin is almost, okay? Probably by the time you're watching it, Bitcoin is at $40,000 a coin. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I never thought the day would come where we saw Bitcoin at the price that it is at today. And I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of people out there that think Bitcoin's gonna go a whole heck of a lot higher. And there's also quite a few people out there that think that we're about to see a major sell-off. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the video. So let's just go back in time just a little bit and talk about kind of the beginning of Bitcoin. I'll keep it real short, real simple, because you probably already know if you're watching the video, but Bitcoin actually first came out, the first coin was ever mined back in 2009. There's a lot of people that say that only about 21 million Bitcoin will ever be mined ever, okay? And if you're not familiar, Bitcoin is mined. Essentially, a computer actually mines it using like algorithms and stuff like that that progressively get harder over time. So a little bit complicated to understand, but I guess if you're like one of the nerdy guys that understands it really well, then you're like, Austin, it's actually really simple. Well, for me, it's a little bit complicated to understand, okay? But there's about 18.5 million in existence so far. So back in January of 2017, Bitcoin was less than $1,000 a coin, okay? I'm actually looking at my computer right here, and on January 27th of 2017, Bitcoin was at $919 a coin, which is literally just insane, okay? And then obviously we had the massive run up, which you're probably all familiar with, where Bitcoin almost peaked out at $20,000 and basically it just fell, okay? And what ended up happening, the way that I understand it, is Bitcoin basically just kind of went up and down, but ultimately didn't do a whole lot from 2017 through really like 2020, okay? And then in 2020, something really interesting happened, right? Obviously, with the pandemic and all the crazy stuff going on in the world, Bitcoin went ahead and it fell back down to below $4,000 in 2020, okay? Started off the year obviously a little bit higher and then fell down in March, I believe it was March 25th, where Bitcoin actually hit an all-time low for 2020, landing somewhere around like $3,800 per coin. Now, obviously going into 2021, today is January 7th, okay? You'll probably be watching the video on January 8th, and basically Bitcoin actually ended up hitting, just literally as I was filming the video, it ended up hitting $40,000 a coin. It looks like it's gonna pull back a little bit, and it's kind of making a little bit of a U-shaped recovery already, and it's just hovering right around that $40,000 mark. So Bitcoin is probably one of the most controversial investments of 2020, and I would say back in 2017, it was probably one of the most controversial investments back in 2017 as well, and also one of the most volatile investments, okay, of our time. You really look at a lot of even the altcoins, but in particular, the Bitcoin is extremely volatile and extremely controversial. I mean, it's almost like politics, right? You literally look at Bitcoin and you go talk to two people and one person will literally put all of their money into Bitcoin. They're like ride or die. They think Bitcoin's going to like $1 million a coin, and you go talk to another person and they want nothing to do with it. That being said, it is the best performing potential asset, depending on how you look at it, in the last decade, okay? So in the last decade, I got a crazy statistic for you. Bitcoin has literally performed 9 million%. Okay, just like, let's just take a step back. Like imagine just for a minute, if Tesla performed at 9 million%, okay? Elon Musk would not only be the richest man in the world, but potentially the richest man in the galaxy. Okay, so for real, 9 million% in a decade? I mean, we're talking some serious money. Now, back in 2009, probably all the way through 2012, maybe even 13 or 14, it was a little bit difficult to buy Bitcoin. I mean, nobody really knew how to buy cryptocurrency, right? I mean, nowadays, like my mom calls me and she's like, Austin, how do I buy myself some Bitcoin? It's pretty simple, right? I'm like, hey mom, like first of all, don't worry about it, okay? Second of all, I'm like, look, you can use Coinbase, there's all these different platforms that exist to buy Bitcoin. You've got all these different wallets so you can store your cryptocurrency, and it's real simple, right? But back in the day, it was pretty difficult to do, and if you were able to do it, there were a lot of people that got hacked, and there were a lot of people that ultimately got their Bitcoin or their Litecoin or their Ethereum or whatever altcoin stolen from them, right? It was a little bit difficult. And, a lot of these bigger, wallets and a lot of the bigger trading platforms, they ended up developing a lot of technology in order to kind of help with that, right? They came out with a lot of the two-factor authentications, and there was all of this stuff we've seen get implemented over the last decade. I wanted to just make a video on Bitcoin, right? And I wanted to talk about, the fact that, look, I ran a little bit of numbers before this. I was like, okay, if I bought 5 Bitcoin in March, right? Everybody is obviously panicking, the pandemic, the stock market plummeted, the Dow Jones dropped by like 10,000 points, okay, which is insane. But if you were to buy Bitcoin, which is also very, very interesting, by the way, because, little side note, okay, Bitcoin is supposedly has nothing to do with the central banks or the U.S. dollar or any currency for that matter. It's supposedly totally separate. So why is it that, which I understand by the way, but it does pique my interest a little bit when you see the overall economy crashing and the stock market crashing, the real estate kind of coming to a halt back in March, that Bitcoin also did the same thing, okay? So a bit interesting, but look, if you were to buy 5 Bitcoin back in March, about 3,800 a coin, give or take, and sold today at 40,000, you would have made about $162,000 worth of profit, okay, give or take. So again, hindsight's always 20/20, right? So every investor would love to look back in time, shoulda, woulda, coulda, of course, So I wish I would have bought Tesla a couple years ago, trust me. Luckily, I ended up buying it for probably about $200 or $300 a share. It is now at $850 a share. So look, I'm not complaining, okay? But look, hindsight's always 20/20. So the question that I would encourage you to ask yourself is, what is the future of Bitcoin, right? Are you one of those people that is looking at Bitcoin and are you bullish? Right? Are you extremely bullish on Bitcoin? Are you looking at the coin and saying, hey, we're going to 100 grand? Or are you looking at the coin and saying, this is just like 2017 and we're ultimately gonna see it drop and then it's just gonna stay flat for a couple of years and then what, right? Eventually, if Bitcoin becomes widely adopted, which it already is, right? It's already becoming fairly widely adopted. I mean, you're looking at a lot of big institutional money coming in, buying, up a lot of Bitcoin, right? And you're seeing a lot more of that. You weren't seeing a lot of that back in 2016, 17, 18, right? So if it is gonna become widely adopted, then, you might be able to buy it 40 grand if you're buying and holding the asset, right, the coin, and you might be able to make money, right? And I think that's really where I wanna just kind of start to wrap up the video is, it depends on your investment strategy. When I look at Bitcoin, when I look at altcoins, when I look at Litecoin, Ethereum, I honestly think they're a great investment. And I actually, at one point, owned about 52 Bitcoin, okay? Not very long ago. I sold quite a few of them, but still own a little bit of them, okay? But when I look at that, there is a very small percentage of my overall investment portfolio. So for me, when I look at, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I don't, and again, it depends on what kind of investor you are, because I don't want, that coin or coins in general to make up a very large percentage of my overall investment portfolio. But again, I'm heavy in the real estate world, and I'm also heavy in the stock market, okay? So my two main things are buy and hold investing, okay? Buy and hold investing for the long term, right? I wouldn't say I'm a conservative investor, but I wouldn't say I'm like a massive risk taker either. I take a little bit of risk, a little bit more risk than a conservative investor would. But I'm in, S&P 500, I'm in Tesla, I'm in Apple, I'm in a lot of stocks, right? I'm also in a lot of ETFs and a lot of, ETFs that revolve around the S&P 500. Also, again, heavily invested in the real estate industry. So for me, when I look at Bitcoin, altcoins, Litecoin, stuff like that, I'm definitely invested, right? But I'm buying and holding. So if you're a buy and hold investor, I think you could buy Bitcoin, in my opinion, all day long. And I think in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're gonna make a lot of money, right? You're gonna make a lot of money. But I think if you're somebody that's just like trying to trade it, then you gotta really know what you're doing, right? I mean, it is extremely volatile. Now, I do know people that do stuff like this and they make good money, but you could also lose a lot of money. So I just kind of wanted to make a video of my thoughts. I do think it is really interesting. I wanted to entertain. I wanted to educate a little bit. Hopefully you learned a couple of things. Look, do your due diligence. Before you buy anything, do your due diligence. I don't really have an opinion. I think that, the market right now doesn't really have much of a reason to do what it's doing, right? I think a lot of, even the stock stock market, the real estate market, everything is all hyped up right now, right? Because overall, we've got 10 or 11 million people unemployed. The election, don't even get me started, right? I wouldn't even, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, right? So when you look at all the junk going on in the world, the markets, performing as bullish as they are, again, you tell me what you think in the comments section down below, but I don't think the markets have much of a reason to do what they're doing. So I would love your feedback. Drop into the comments section down below what you think Bitcoin is gonna do. I would legitimately love to know, because maybe I should be buying more Bitcoin right now, okay? I'm waiting for it to drop a little bit. I'll probably buy a little bit more when it goes down a little bit again. I could be wrong, okay? It could just go all the way up to 100 grand, and I could watch this video back and be like, Austin, you're such an idiot. You should have bought more. So again, hindsight is always 20/20. Don't hold yourself to too high of a standard. Let me know what you think down below. If you haven't already, I forgot that I haven't asked you yet, okay? So if you're still watching the video, drop into the comment section below that you watched until the end. I would love to know how many people watched this video to the end, and also smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It would mean the world to me. And guys, I appreciate you so much for watching. I'm normally talking about the stock market, real estate, how to make money, save money, and invest your money. So I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.